Zeppos, alongside Cougar head coach Mike Leach. Here's the voice of the Cougars, Matt Chazanow.
We are live here at Zeppos. It is game week. It's the Utah Utes in Salt Lake City. Great to be back with everybody here. We got a great crew here at Zeppos, as always, and it is the Utah Utes after the strangest game maybe in the history of college football this past Saturday. We'll talk to Coach Leach about it a little bit, and then we will gladly flush it and then move forward to talk to the Utes. We'll do our due diligence and that which we must, and then not labor on it and not sit on it too long, but we'll talk about it a little bit. I do want to go big picture a little bit with Coach, talk about what momentum is and adversity, and then how to roll through that, and how the practice has been this week. I think everybody's really curious as to what this game against Utah is going to be like. Utah is off a loss itself. There was a chance that this game was between two ranked, unbeaten teams, and then, wouldn't you know it, the Bruins do what they did, and the Utes lost to USC, and now there's a huge game this week in Seattle between the Huskies and the Trojans, and a big one in Salt Lake City as well now between the Cougs and the Utes, who are ranked 19th in the country. Not to be lost in what was an extremely difficult game. There's no doubt that the offense was incredible in almost every statistical way, except for, of course, 6 turnovers. So high highs and then very low lows. That's obviously too many, and Coach Leach wasn't happy about any phase in totality. Although Anthony Gordon did have 9 touchdown passes, which is just incredible. And, yeah, he has 21 touchdown passes now in 4 games, and he's still completing 75%, and he's thrown 4 interceptions. One of those definitely not his fault. He nearly has 2,000 passing yards. He has 1,894 pass yards in 4 games. Just incredible. So the Cougs are 3-1. Let's listen to a little bit of a recap of last week. I just got word that Coach Leach is en route here from Thursday Night Football. We'll listen to that recap. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We should be back with Coach right then, live here at Zeppos.
Cougs.
Snap back, Gordon tosses it right, touchdown. Ball right side, Winston over the right shoulder and angles in for a 28-yard score. Gordon, 3rd and goal from the 3, toss to the right, touchdown. Easop Winston. Gordon tosses it left side of the end zone, spinning grab. There's a toe tapper and a touchdown. 27 seconds to play in the half, an 8-yard hookup to Tay Martin. Gordon with 4 first-half passing touchdowns. Snap back, Gordo unleashes one center of the field. It's a touchdown to Renard Bell. Down the left seam, a 35-yard hookup. Gordon takes the snap, slings it right. Des Patman with the grab, short pylon. There it is. The Washington State single-game passing touchdown tying throw to Des Patman, the 7th. Snap back to Gordon, pats it once, puts air underneath it, right side, catch made, Easop Winston, touchdown, 33 yards, Easop angling, right side of the end zone, and Gordon puts air underneath it to give the Cougars a 55-46 lead, and that's the record-setting touchdown pass for Anthony Gordon, number 8. This is a wobbly one near side of the field, taken at the 30-yard line by Phillips. Now he scampers at the 40 near side of the field, angling center at the 50, watch out, 40-yard line, Phillips now Tristan Brock dive for him, can't get him, turns the corner for Dragicevic and breaks to the far side of the field and returns it for a touchdown. It is a punt return TD, and UCLA has taken the lead 59-56 with 7:31 to play in the 4th. Tosses it flat left, Borghi with the grab. Block is there, off to the races, 50, one man to beat 40. Far sideline, Borghi turns the corner, Max Borghi, touchdown! Washington State with 6:11 to play. 9 passing touchdowns for Gordon, and the Cougs are back on top in the strangest ball game you've ever heard of. Gordon with 67 seconds to work is hit from behind, ball comes loose. UCLA may have recovered it at the 15-yard line. They do, and it is Bruin football with 59 seconds left. Take the field, ball game over, knee down. They're 1 second on the clock and now zeros, and Washington State falls to 3-1. Lose the Pac-12 opener at home, 67-63, in the highest scoring game in Pac-12 history.
More from Zeppos after this. call-in line at 866-COOG-TALK. That's 1-866-268-4825. Now, back to the show.
Back here live at Zeppo's. It is that time of the week. Great to be with you. It's the Coach's Show. Coach Leach is en route. He got stopped up at a red light, literally, so he'll be here momentarily. There's that little bit of 6 p.m. traffic in Pullman traffic. You know, I'm sure some are laughing at that as such a thing that doesn't really exist, but he will be here momentarily. The Cougs take on 19th-ranked Utah. It's always such a fun matchup between two coaches who know each other so well going way back to the BYU days, but Kyle Whittingham is always this great defensive coach. They're always so good at defense. Their rush defense is number 1 in the pack, number 2 in the nation, and then Washington State says that's fine, we don't run the ball. And that always makes it really interesting when these two get together. They've played classic games, and Washington State's come on top now for 4 straight seasons, 4 straight years. The Cougs have beaten the Utes. Last year with the 89-yard touchdown to Aesop Winston. A couple of years ago, you may recall, if you rack your brain a little bit, on a gorgeous night for football, really attractive evening, the Cougars kept on kicking field goals on drives where they started right near the 30. Utah's defense kept holding. There were 5 field goals in that game, and it felt like Washington State really could have been way up, and they weren't. And Hercules had this incredible game, probably his best game, which is actually saying quite a bit. And Mata Afa had 5 tackles for loss, and including 3 sacks in that ball game. And it was one where it really came down to the end, and Chima Onukwu had the late interception to seal it. Chima had really his biggest play as a Coug and had that interception, and Washington State won it 33-25. And there were 2 more wins prior to that, but those were the last 2 years prior. Those were the last 2, and they've really been these incredible ball games. Last year, 89-yard touchdown to Aesop with 4:14 left. That wound up being the game winner in what was one of the great plays in a really special season. In fact, for Aesop, that was one of 2 game-winning touchdowns against teams that at the time were the number 1 ranked defense in the pack. He did it against Utah, and then he did it against Cal. Cal at the time was the number 1 ranked D, and he beat both of them in a different type of plays. The Cal touchdown was that fade pattern, but Aesop just had these great games against 2 great defenses. He had a great game, a career-high 10 receptions for 114 yards, but he did have that last fumble and lost that ball, and UCLA scooped it up after Washington State's defense had turned him over on downs late in that ball game there, turned him over on 4th down. Aesop right now is number 1 nationally in touchdown receptions. He's number 3 in the pack in overall receptions. He has 26 catches. That leads Washington State right now, and he's averaging 13 yards a touch. At current, right now, Cougars have 8 receivers who have double-digit catches on the year through 4 games. The wealth has been spread. So Rod Fisher has 10. Renard Bell has a dozen now. Borghi has 13. Boy, did Max play a great game against UCLA. He really played a heck of a ball game. Just a fantastic ball game against the Bruins. And 15 carries in that ball game. Right now he's averaging just shy of 8 yards a touch is Max Borghi on carries. He has 41 attempts for 325 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's number 9 in the nation with 6 total touchdowns as Coach Leach enters Zeppo's here. And we will get that headset on him here in just a second. And then Dion, who backed up Max last game, has 61 yards on 7 carries and scored that touchdown as well, that 32-yarder against Northern Colorado. So, we're kind of running through the numbers here, Coach, as we're getting set for Utah. How's practice this week? How are the guys bouncing around out there for Thursday Night Football tonight? How's it going?
We had a pretty good practice and had a competitive Thursday Night Football, I thought. I thought the defense flew around, had a few good runs,
How do you feel the team has been in response here to UCLA? I'm not going to sit here and harp on that last game long as we kind of look forward here to Utah, but what's the mood, the morale, the spirit been in the Cougar football building and getting ready for the Utes here this week?
We've had good energy in practice all week, and I thought that part was good. And, we just have to keep improving. Right now, we're an explosive team, but we're not a real consistent team, and we got to stay explosive but become more consistent.
We're going to just get right to the questions here. Some of them football related, some of them, of course, not. As a lot of the tweets are coming in here, M_Chaz. If you're listening or viewing online and you'd like to throw a question in for Coach, you can also feel free to call 866-268-4825, 866-268-4825. Mark B., great Coug, often comes here from California. Asks you, Coach, with a new OC for Utah in 4 games, is it enough to spot tendencies in play calls? This is an interesting question. When teams get new coordinators, and so now you're 4 games in, how much can you scoop up from the way an OC is kind of running an offense in a short sample size like this when there's coaching changes?
Because they run a similar scheme. They've always kind of had a similar philosophy on offense, and it's not a great deal different than what it's been in the past. And so it's oddly congruent. I think he was there before, or somebody he worked with. But it's really quite similar to the Utah teams that you're used to.
Yeah, Andy Ludwig is their OC. They've had a lot of the same personnel also. Zach Moss sounds like he may not go. They're running back, but even if they play any of the other 3, it sounds like Huntley will go. How different could it really be, you'd think, maybe with all those same personnel and all the same guys out there, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty similar. I don't expect a lot of differences. I think they'll, be a hard-nosed team, and like they always are, and I think they'll be physical, and I think it'll be a violent game.
Daniel Hayes on Twitter asks you, Coach, we've beaten Utah the last 4 times. Each game's been relatively close. Why do you think we've had Utah's number over the years? Go Cougs. What do you think?
I think we've played consistent. We played consistent. We were patient when things didn't go our way, which that's important. And hung in there until the end and found a way to win it.
Last one, and then we'll move on. We'll take a break and move on. What was your? Have you ever been part of a game like that? Is it ups and downs like that against the Bruins, where it's just there's so much momentum, and then the other team gets so much momentum, and Chip Kelly doing his thing, play calls wise, and a game with that many ins and outs and that many layers like an onion. You ever been part of something like that?
Well, it was a strange game, but we just have to protect the football and we have to tackle. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
All right, what we're going to do then is take a break, and we will come back here live at Zeppo's. We'll keep getting to some questions. A lot of these have nothing to do with football. We'll keep getting to those, and we'll also talk a little bit more about the Utes. We're live here at Zeppo's with Coach this week, getting ready for the Utah Utes.
This is the U.S. Bank Cougar Coaches Show. Put your trust in a bank that's been focused on serving the people and businesses in Washington and all across the country since 1863. That's U.S. Bank, equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Back here live at Zeppo's. It is the Coaches Show. We're here with Coach Leach live every week before game week, before a game. And we have a caller now, and I believe he just kind of wanted to call his question in. And we can get Logan from Gig Harbor on the air. Yeah, let's get Logan on as I'm talking to our studio back here. Logan, go ahead, buddy. You're live on the air with Coach.
Okay, I would like to know, who do you think is the best start for your quarterback that you've ever coached in college?
That's tough to say, and it's tough because every year there's a different year, and then the other thing is their supporting cast vary a little bit too. So it's pretty tough to say. But our last three have been pretty good. So.
Yeah, and that's Logan calling in from Gig Harbor. Logan, thank you for the call. I got a text here from him back in studio when they were talking off air. I think he also kind of wanted to ask, is there a single game performance, and maybe he was alluding to Anthony this past game, but is there a performance where you go, yeah, that's the best game a quarterback's played, and maybe it isn't just statistically based, but sometimes it's what quarterbacks don't do that makes them great too. Is there a game where you go, man, Graham Harrell back at Tech played this one game, that's the best game I've ever seen a QB play, or Gardner last year, anything like that? Does one stick out?
I can't think of just one. I thought Anthony played good last week. I thought Graham played good when we played that famous Texas game, but he played even better the next week when we beat Oklahoma State. Gardner, I thought he played pretty good against Stanford. Difficult to say. I'd have to scan through them. It'd take me a minute.
It's a lot of starts and a lot of stats for sure. Logan, thanks, buddy. Thanks for the call. Thanks for listening over there in Gig Harbor. Let's go off the beaten path a little bit here, and I'm just getting these tweets in now, so it's hard to organize them, but we'll just have at it. Mary wants to know, question for Coach, if offered, would you ever consider dancing on Dancing with the Stars, asks Mary.
Now, I'm not going to say I ever got it, but they did reach out, and no, I'm not interested.
They did reach out. Mary, thank you for that question, and there's your answer. Not a big dancer.
They just asked if I'd be interested, and I said no.
Got it. Now, this may take us down a rabbit hole, and we can do that. That happens on this show. Drew Hollingshead, who is our quality control, one of our quality control guys, does a great job. Asks if you could hit a fastball today off of Drew if he pitched it.
I'd knock the fence down if Drew pitched.
Drew went on our podcast and said outrageous things, un-American things, quite honestly, against Babe Ruth. Said Babe Ruth couldn't play today. He's gotten the whole Cougar football complex up in arms with these horrible sports.
Well, he's got a millennial complex, which they think the only time that's ever existed is now, and so it's it's a disease he's got. And what can he do about it?
Stuck with it. He's like the Batman of sports takes. He likes the anger. He's the bad guy everybody needs, I guess.
No, he's a cult anti-hero of our generation, and and he ought to be on you and Emmerich's show every week. I mean,
we might need to arrange that.
Oh, you guys need to give the people what they want and have him on every week.
I love it. Lynn Carmichael. Lynn's such a great Coug. He'll be here for the next home game, I suspect. On the podcast that you just referenced, we talked about donuts. For the record, Dave Emmerich is a monster and doesn't like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We've been over this. But he does like peanut butter, and we talked about jelly donuts. Anyway, etc. Lynn asks, how do you feel about donuts? Do you like donuts? Lynn wants to know. And Lynn's here every week. If you're here every week, we will get your question on the air.
I'm kind of eat one donut, maybe two, if at all. Yeah. I don't eat a lot of donuts. The best ones are Krispy Kremes, just a basic, round donut. And
right.
If I eat them, then I'd have like two.
Yeah.
After that, it gets too sweet. It gets, it's just the sweet part gets too strong.
Lynn, thanks for viewing, thanks for listening, and we're excited to see you back here at Zeppo's. As always, Lynn Lynn we always have a good time with Lynn here. All right, let's talk a little bit of football, and I do want to ask you more about Gordon because he's thrown 21 touchdowns in 4 games. He just has the quickest release, doesn't he? I mean, he gets rid of that thing from decision making to time of release. That it's just the quickest amount of time physically for his hand, the way his mechanics are. It's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think it's really incredible. It does come off his hand really quick, and then the other thing, he does a good job being disciplined about, going through his reads. He's not a guy that overlooks stuff. He keeps it simple, and he's always relaxed as he goes out there, and I think it benefits him and the other players as well.
Yeah, Alex was saying, and he mentioned this on the air, and we talked about it again in postgame, Alex Brink. There was a throw to Tay down to the 2 or 3 yard line where you could see him wave Tay through. He kind of waved him across. He waited, and the way Alex was saying it, there are windows that they look through, spots where they know they can throw it. And Anthony literally he knew he had the pocket, and he just waited a little bit, literally waved him on, like, no, not yet. Okay, now, and threw it right on the money. And Alex was pretty impressed by that.
Oh, yeah, no, he can do that. He can kind of dart it there right away.
Really, really good. Let's. I want to ask you. Aesop, Tay, Dez, Rod. I know they had the fumbles, and that's not good. But in terms of production, they've been. I mean, I don't want to say record-setting because it's early in the year, but it's really been just an incredible. I mean, Aesop leads the nation in touchdown receptions. They've been doing. I would think you're really happy with the way they've been running everything except for a few plays last game, right?
Yeah, they're explosive and they're skilled and they've improved. But the thing is we still got to be more consistent. We've got to be more consistent. That's the biggest thing.
Are you able to is ball security mental? Is it technique? Is it physical? What do you talk to the guys about?
I think it's a combination of both, but I think it's something that's constantly got to be in the back of your head, constantly emphasized. And one of the best things is when you have your defense constantly tear away at it, then I think it creates an awareness,
In practice, so you kind of want them to go.
Oh, the defense should attack them if they've got a ball and try to rip it loose.
Max Borghi seems to have no issues with. Did he play a great game against UCLA? Did Max?
I thought he played a pretty good game. I thought Max played a pretty good game.
When he had that 65-yarder to put the Cougs up 63-60, that was a moment where it just felt like he kind of wheeled his way around that guy, wheeled around there. Felt like he was just trying to I don't say do it all himself because there's so many great plays in that ball game, but he really cut through and blasted through on a great individual effort.
He's pretty good at breaking a guy down on open space. It's awfully hard to tackle him all by yourself.
He stiff-armed him and was gone in that one. What is momentum in a ball game? How do you combat it? How do you create it? Because it feels like these things kind of take on a life of their own. Like in baseball, they say hitting's contagious. In basketball, they say it's like a game of runs because teams seem to get confident. What is that in sport? How that happens?
Well, the biggest thing, you can't get distracted. I mean, if you want to maintain momentum and if you want to get momentum back, you can't get distracted, and you have to just focus on the next play and do your job. And it's as simple as that, and maybe easier said than done, but that's what it takes. And the other thing, in a team game, you got to collectively do it.
Does it feel like maybe for college kids, once things start to go one way, that they can lose focus in a certain sense?
Well, they can. Other times they don't. And the important thing is to have the self-discipline not to.
For the world's most refreshing beer, 21 means 21. Celebrate responsibly with Coors Light, Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. We're up against a break, bottom of the hour here. We'll take it. We'll come back here live with Coach Leach at Zeppo's as we get set for the Utah Utes.
Call in line at 866-COOG-TALK, 1-866-268-4825. Live from Zeppo's alongside Cougar head coach Mike Leach. Here's Matt Chazanow.
We're back here live at Zeppo's. We're working our way toward the Utah Utes. It's Thursday. Team will travel tomorrow. We'll head down for a night game in Salt Lake City. Supposed to be kind of rainy down there, I think. That happens this time of year sometimes down there, but about 50 and rainy, I think. You never know for sure, but it's supposed to be a little bit wet. This is for your decor on the sideline, Coach. I don't want you to stay dry now. Be comfortable.
I just wear whatever JP gives me, whatever's sitting there, and then I sift through that.
Get you set up. Yeah, I think that's what he's planning for. One of the questions here: team leadership so important. Who do you see as leaders on the team this year? That's a question here from the crowd. Who are the leaders?
I think it kind of varies. I think on the O-line, it's. Probably Liam Ryan. I think Max is evolving into one. Gordon's definitely one. I can't say there's one at receiver that I'd clearly define. Arcanato, probably of the receivers.
Maybe Jihad defensively?
Defensively, it'd be Jihad. Secondary kind of bounces around a little bit. Marcus Strong does some good things. Willie Rogers. I'll tell you who I think is going to be a good leader at some point, hopefully sooner than later, is R.J. Stone.
Oh, yeah, R.J., he's made some plays out there. He was a redshirt last year, and his father, longtime NFL player. R.J., big-looking backup rush linebacker right now. He's made some plays when he's been in there, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's real rangy and he's quick, and yeah, it does a good job.
The freshman class, so if you look at true freshmen but also redshirt freshmen, two linebackers really do jump out. I mean, Travion Brown and R.J. Stone are two really good-looking young players on the ball club, aren't they?
Yeah, Travion's getting better and better. So's Beekman.
Yeah, Beekman, who's made a ton of tackles. Bryce has made a ton. He's second on the team in tackles right now with 28 of them. He's finished off some plays.
Yeah, he's a good tackler.
So, yeah, Bryce Beekman with 28. Jihad has 36 to lead the way. We sort of thought coming into this year, we'd seen Jihad strip Sam Darnold in that key moment. He had a big game against USC, and Jihad's really been pretty solid in that spot, knows where to put guys, doesn't he?
Yeah, generally he does a pretty good job. I mean, and those guys, they do a good job. They just do the same thing, consistency. We got to be more consistent over there.
How explosive, some of those UCLA players, you'd mentioned you'd recruited a lot of them. Those guys, I mean, they were really banged up against Cincinnati. They were really banged up against San Diego State. Those guys are pretty explosive players. Demetric Felton, he looked really fast.
Well, they're really good athletes. They were really, really good athletes. They're recruited by the whole country. They've been dormant for a little while, but, they can be really explosive when they want to.
Darnay Holmes, their corner, he was a five-star recruit. And then there's another corner for Stanford who is very well regarded named Paulson Adebo. And when those two guys hit, it looks like they just really explode onto the guy they're tackling. Hard hitters, for sure. And, UCLA had one of them there, didn't he? Played okay.
Well, yeah, and he was a good player. We got behind him quite a bit, too, though.
Yeah, no doubt. 9 touchdowns to that tune. Hey, question here from the folks here in Zeppo's. UCLA game's behind us. How do you motivate moving forward for Utah? Is that even an issue? Is it with the staff? Is it you personally? Is it players on the team? How does that working forward through the rest of this week getting set for Utah?
Well, I don't think the issue is motivation. We've got to just embrace simple little things, not try to do too much, try to do our jobs, and just worry about being the best team that we can be.
One of the things that is so fun, I kind of mentioned it off the top before you'd walked in, the contrast in styles. Kyle Whittingham stops the run. They're really, really big up front. They always are. And obviously, the Cougs throw the ball, lead the nation in passing every year. It's led to this great contrast of styles. It really is fun as a fan to see these two teams good at different things, or even just trying to do different things, trying to hit different targets, go up against each other. The NFL has less of that. There's not as much varied scheme, and it's just one of the things that makes this game so fun every year.
Yeah, and they do a tremendous job over there. That's a really well-coached team, and they take a lot of pride in defense, and they always play hard. They'll play hard till the end.
We kind of say it every year. I know, you and I are so familiar with this story, but you and Kyle Whittingham go way back, way, way, way back, don't you?
Yeah, not as far as we might have. We didn't know each other in college, but we were really familiar with the same places and the same people and same events. So then as we met each other through coaching, then we got to know each other pretty well, pretty fast.
Post-game party never stops at Northern Quest with 24/7 gaming, over a dozen restaurants and lounges, luxury rooms, and more. Details at northernquest.com. We'll take a break, come back here live with Coach at Zeppo's. The Cougs getting ready for the 19th-ranked Utah Utes.
Game with the Coors Light Opponent Preview. Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
Back here live at Zeppo's. It is that time of the week. We are talking football here with Coach Leach. We referenced it a little bit last segment. This is the segment where we do specifically preview the opponent. Now, a lot of the personnel is back and is the same as last year. A lot of the coaching, but Kyle Whittingham's in his 15th year as the Utah head coach, a career record of 123-62. He's been really, really good there. But, Coach, I want to ask you specifically, because I know that the personnel has returned, but this defensive line for Utah, again, it's big and it's violent and it's really effective once again, isn't it? Utah's D-line's really good.
Yeah, their outside guys are really talented. They're huge. Probably the biggest D-line we'll face, at least on the inside. And then and a lot of them played against us last year. Not always in starting roles, but most of them played when we played last year.
Utah lost 3 players, all to the NFL. 2 are actually Seahawks, one of them to the Saints. But the D-line pretty much is intact. John Pennicini's 6'2", 320. Leki Fotu is 6'5", 330. And then what do you make? So a player like Bradley Anaye, who's a really good ball player, 6'3", 265. He's pretty versatile, and what I mean by that is he can sometimes his hands on the ground, sometimes he stands up, and that's not something that every player is able to do, right? That's a pretty flexible ball player, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a really good player. He played against us last year too. His uncle Robert and I worked for me for a while, was the offensive line coach for me at Tech, and I've known Robert for a long time. Robert's another BYU guy, and so's Bradley's father, from what I understand.
So it's a whole football family, the Anayes are.
Yeah, the Anayes, they kind of rule Kahuku up there in Hawaii, and do whatever they want up there.
He's from the same town as Mika Tafua, the right end, actually. They're both from Hawaii. I think the same region for sure, 6'3", 252. But even if you go, like, to the two deep for Utah, those guys are really good also. I mean, it's not just the front line. It's also their backups. Like Peter Tonga, those guys, they're all huge.
Yeah, no, they do a good job.
They did lose, as I alluded to. They lost They lost a lot, but they kind of reload. They lost 3 guys to the NFL, but Jayon Johnson, Javelin Guidry, their secondary, Julian Blackman, those are names that if you were following the Utes last year, they are back, and they bring back a ton of experience, and so it's a defense that's right now 16th in total defense nationally. Offensively, wide receivers that are of comparable stature, right? 5'9", 170, 5'10", 187, 5'8", 170 for Dixon, Simpkins, and Covey, and then Samson Nakua is 6'3", 200, but they're all kind of somewhat similar, aren't they, for the wide receivers for the Utes? Is that fair to say? Yeah,
they try to set up the run, and then the quarterback will try to surprise you and run it sometimes and pop up and throw it, and then they go downfield on you. They do a lot of good stuff.
All right, that's our opponent preview right there. Oh, also, Daryl Paulo's brother is the left tackle. Daryl's back in Spokane. I saw him, just happened to cross paths with him. I think he's trying to be a police officer in Spokane. He was in Montana. He's back now. His brother Darren's the left tackle here for the Utes. Daryl was a Coug just a few years back. Darren's a pretty good one for the Utes on the left side there.
Yeah, Darren's huge. Darren's huge also. And, of course, Daryl did a really good job here.
Yeah, he did. So Darren's now 6'5", 315 he's up to, and he's been playing good ball for them. That's our opponent preview there for the Utah Utes. Utah is 3-1, and Kyle Whittingham, of course, back is the most tenured coach here in the Pac-12 to date. You and I are kind of catching up on some news here. You've been at practice, and I was bouncing around campus today in Boulder and whatnot and having some meetings and everything. So you tell me, Uncle Rico met Gardner Minshew, like the actual Uncle Rico? What's the story here?
Well, I was trying to figure that out, and the guy just texted me and said that I guess there's somebody did a T-shirt of Gardner and Uncle Rico, and then they were shooting some kind of a commercial, and I guess they ran across one another is what it sounded like from the story.
Amazing. And this is the actual actor from Napoleon Dynamite, Uncle Rico.
Yeah, I don't know where he lives, but he found his way to Jacksonville and was eating at Waffle House, which that's an outstanding place. So he does have good taste in places to eat, because I love Waffle House. Actually, we need a Waffle House here in Pullman.
Do you go like smothered, the whole deal, the whole exercise?
I get sweet tea. I keep it pretty basic. But I get sweet tea and grits, and then eggs and ham usually. However, pretty good deal on the T-bone steak there if you like that.
I didn't know that they would do that.
No, they got steak. They got all that steak stuff. I'm not a big hash brown guy. I like the grits better. And then, but no, they're good price for the steaks, 24 hours a day. No, a Waffle House is an institution. Waffle House is easily one of America's greatest restaurants, and anybody that hadn't eaten at a Waffle House is making a huge error. And the other thing that's great about a Waffle House is it's good any meal of the day.
How about, will you go steak and eggs for breakfast? Are you a steak, like you said, steak, Waffle House? I'm thinking
sometimes, if I'm not going to eat too heavy, then I get the ham.
Instead of the steak?
Yes.
Yeah, got it. All right. What's the ideal breakfast for you? What's your breakfast on game day? You don't eat
on
game day, right?
Yeah, that depends where you're at. Different places it's different, and sometimes better than others. And sometimes, it's more of a afternoon thing if you play at night.
Right.
And so then my typical breakfast, if I eat breakfast, is 2 poached eggs, whole wheat toast, grits if you can get them, ham, or Canadian bacon. Rare place will have Canadian bacon. That stuff's really good.
So that's the Canadian.
Then what's the other thing? And then I always take an apple with me to eat sometime during the day.
Sounds really good. The grits and Canadian bacon's an interesting marriage there. That's the northern, very northern and very southern.
Yeah, but and then depends how they do their ham, but the thin ham that covers some ground, that's pretty good.
Really good, really good. We got a couple more breaks to take. We're going to do it. Uncle Rico meeting Gardner Minshew. That's awesome. We'll take a break. Come back. We're live here at Zeppo's. It's the Cougs coming up against the Utes.
Bank Cougar Coaches Show. Give us a call on the bookie call-in line at 866-COUG-TALK. That's 1-866-268-4825. Now, back to the show.
Graced by the presence of the Drew Hollingshead here, everybody's enemy.
That's true. That's a cult anti-hero right there.
It'd be the guy.
It'd be Batman and the Joker.
That's the guy right there, no doubt. Drew handing off something here to Coach. We're back here live at Zeppo's. And, Coach, we got a question here from Ryan here in Zeppo's. I want to add a little bit of context. If anybody listening missed it, one of your recent press conference monologues went viral on Twitter. You were kind of going through the way the mascots would battle it out in sort of a hypothetical, and not sort of a hypothetical, in a hypothetical of mascot battles. You had alluded to the Ute trading for a rifle. What's the Cougs' best option if the Ute acquires a rifle? What does the Cougar do to retort? What do you think?
Well, first of all, you got to go with the Cougars. I mean, because it's not just Butch a Cougar.
Right.
It's Butch the Cougar. Okay, and then there is that. And then, the other thing is Cougars as we know them are still in existence, and Utes as far as the tribes, owning the plains and stuff like that aren't quite as prevalent as Cougars remain, and so I give the edge to the Cougars, and despite the fact I have a great admiration for the Utes and that type of thing. With regard to mascot, as far as longevity and staying power, you got to go with the Cougs because you got to go back in history a little bit to really get to the serious business end of the Utes.
There you go. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for that question. Fun to relive that one a a little bit. We are headed to Salt Lake City. It's a great setting for football, I think, right in the mountains there where you are in Salt Lake City, Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Oh, it's a gorgeous stadium. Now, this stadium here, this is one of the prettiest stadiums because you got the whole panorama of the mountains right there, and it's kind of up on a hill. So it really is an outstanding place for a stadium.
Both the mountain schools are pretty neat that way, aren't they? In Boulder, you're right against the Rockies.
The Flatirons, yeah.
Yeah, where you're right there. I get Flatirons, right? And then in Salt Lake City, the snow caps and everything.
Got the Wasatch right there, and then, of course, the Palouse, it sprawls and you can see forever, so all the better.
It really is. When these fall days here, these fall football games, and I have that bird's eye view up there I'm next to where the coordinators are. But Alex and I always talk about how there's just nothing like it. I mean, it's gorgeous, and there's nothing like it. You just see forever. You see Kamiak and Steptoe Butte, and I'm always talking to Jerry, our engineer. Jerry does such a good job, and we're always talking about how he can identify. Now, he's from here originally, born just down the road, and he's always mentioning out like this is that peak, and there's Moscow Mountain and everything. It's beautiful.
Well, that is remarkable, and because there's a point to where all the hills kind of look the same. I mean, my favorite thing, they go in Pullman. Well, first of all, anybody that first moves to Pullman is not easy to get around. They say, oh, it's easy to get around. There's 4 hills. No, there's not 4 hills. There's like 40 hills. and there's 4 hills. Okay. That's right. I'll keep that. There's 4 hills. Okay. And then no, there's a bunch of hills, and then the other thing, there's no straight roads, and then the other thing is they'll circle back into one another. And when I first got here, they were repairing they were redoing building the press box, and there was a crane there on the top of the hill, day or night. And I'd try to take a path towards that crane, and through some trial and error, I'd find my way to the crane. And then and then after 2 weeks, I had a pretty good idea how to go there a little more efficiently, weaving around, going in a circle up this hill, down this hill, and then I was there.
Yeah, it is kind of because
it's funny because the new people will move here. Whether they're professors, administrators, or coaches and stuff like that, and they takes them a while to sort it out.
Right. There is an option of getting a little more lost than you'd think for someone to replace. I agree with that. It's really not. Day one, you're not just like ready to go. You kind of do need to have a little sense of where to go. You can get lost. It used to, but it's really not a great biking town with all the hills. You prefer the walk as opposed to the bike?
Well, because I can't talk on the phone. I could get one call. Start one call. All right, here we go. And then you have to stop, make another call. So the bike's not really as congruent to multitasking the phone calls.
Got it.
And then, of course, weather enters into it a little bit. And I don't mind walking in the weather because, you just gear up for it, but biking's affected a little more. Buddy Levy bikes up on campus from Moscow a lot. He was a co-author of my book on Geronimo. He and I worked together and wrote that, and he's a professor on campus. And so I don't think it's too bad to bike up and down campus. For a while, Spurrier had this Albatross bike that, I don't know, probably weighed 300 pounds or something. I don't know how much it weighed, but it weighed a lot. And then, but he could bike around until he got to some of the real serious hills. And so you can gear him down and find your way up. And but a lot of people really do like to bike. And then the other thing, those bikes on campus, we have those catch and release bikes on campus where you see people using them all the time.
Have you ridden any of those bikes that have the assistants? They're like the motorized mechanical assistants for the pedal. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's still like cheating, kind of.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, you can.
I feel guilty after that.
You can ride it. You can ride it, and it's amazing. You go up a hill, and it assists you, and you just don't even. You kind of don't even feel it. You could ride forever. It's really amazing. I mean, it's great utilitarian if you're from a utilitarian sense if you need to maintain endurance and keep going.
Oh, Key West, they have those because some of those people that work downtown and live on a boat or something a ways away, they can just stick their bike on the boat. And so some of them run through their batteries pretty fast, and others pedal more than some do.
Do you just charge it up? Do you know? I'm not even sure how that works, really. I guess you charge it up.
Yeah, they charge them up. They charge them up, and they last longer than you would think. I mean, it is quite impressive how long they last from the people I've talked to. So, the people that have them are so thrilled that they have them. They'll tell you all about them. You know, just a complete stranger loves talking about that motorized bike. But and they'll explain the whole thing and tell you what model to get, the whole deal. And I think it's kind of taken off to the point where there's more and more of them out there and new models coming out.
There's a degree of enthusiasm for sure. Like those who are really into it, like they're really into it. That's what they do. Like
well, the other thing, there's also like a board that's got a wheel right in the middle of the board that you stand on either side, and that thing will take off and go pretty good too.
Oh, I have seen that. I don't even know what to call that.
And as soon as one edge goes down, the wheel stops.
Right.
This edge goes down, the wheel stops. You just sort of stand there like this.
Yeah, it kind of goes with your weight. I don't even know what to call it, but it is battery. It is battery powered.
Well, I saw a guy doing that, and I don't know who was happier, me to learn about how his gadget worked or him to tell me.
Yeah,
you know?
I bet. Hey, thank you guys for everybody here in attendance. It's great to see everybody here at Zeppo. Much thanks to Jerry Kylo, our producer and engineer. Jared Prengruber does such a good job behind the scenes as well. Jake Eisenberg back in the U.S. Bank Network studios. Coach, thank you for the time, and good luck against the Utes.
All right, thanks.